Hey, good night again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Mr. Analyst. Of course, I'm Leighton Levy. Tonight, we're talking about the Reggae Boys. A 26-man squad was named today by Steve McLaren for the first two matches in the September window. That's Bermuda on September 6th, and of course, Trinidad and Tobago on September 9th. Crucial matches because the winner of this group actually qualifies for the World Cup. So we are literally 6 matches away from the World Cup, and it's all for us to do now. Now let me just get you caught up on the players who have been selected for the Reggae Boys squad, just to make sure that you're in the loop and in the know, because it's an interesting squad, pretty much the same as we've seen in previous years, and in previous iterations, I should say. And only a few differences, of course. Leon Bailey's not there. Joe Latimer not there. Andre Blake, crucially as the goalkeeper, is not there. And of course, Bobby Reed, who is also absent, all out through the injury. Now, let me just go through the squad quickly here. Taquan Davis and Jamali White and Safari Chambers are the goalkeepers. Defenders, Dexter Lembikisa, Kyle Duncan, Damian Lowe, Richard King, Ethan Pinnock, Mason Holgate, Amari Bell, and Greg Lay. The midfielders, Isaac Hayden, Ian Frey, John Russell, Casey Palmer, Karoy Anderson, Joshua Anglin, and Kevin Lambert. And of course, the forwards, Kaheem Dixon, Demarai Gray, Ronaldo Cephas, Tyrese Campbell, Warner Brown, Bailey Gatamari, Michael Antonio, and Shamar Nichols. Now, joining me tonight to talk about the squad and some interesting developments I was mentioned by Steve McLaren today. Of course, the most key one being that Mason Greenwood still is unavailable for Jamaica, despite the fact that he's now in possession of a Jamaican passport. And Michael Antonio has also been included in the squad. Well, and he hasn't been playing. He's been released by West Ham, and as far as I know, he's into commentary. So Andrew Pryce, veteran coach Andrew Pryce, is going to join us to talk a little bit about what the squad looks like and a little bit about why are we not seeing Mason Greenwood after Jamaica has chased him for so long. Andrew, thanks for joining us. And of course, an interesting announcement today from Coach Steve McLaren. When you look at the squad, it's not much changed. But what do you make of the squad going up against Bermuda in September 5 in Bermuda?
Well, basically, the squad is very similar to what we had in the recent two camps that we had for the Unity Cup and the Gold Cup. The players who are absent, most notably people like Leon Bailey, Bobby Reed, Blake, are all upset because of injury. And because of injury, they weren't included in the squad. I'm a little bit surprised at the inclusion of people like Mikel Antonio, as you have said before at the start of the program, that he hasn't been playing. But my understanding that he has been practicing with the under 21 team with the West Ham, and I believe he has been in dialogue with the coach. So Steve McLaren must know the type of fitness levels that Mikel Antonio has for him to have included him into the squad for these two crucial games.
Yeah. One of the things that, the challenges, I think, for the Reggae Boys over the last few years has been the midfield. We see John Russell coming off an injury. Of course, Isaac Hayden also coming back to the midfield. Personally, I like when those two are playing because I think there's more solidity to the midfield. What's your thoughts on the midfield and the players available for that very crucial area? Because I think for the forward line, I mean, outside of Bailey being missing on the back line, the midfield has always been the challenging area for the Reggae Boys in the last few years.
Yeah, we have always been very worried about that creative number 10 position. And I still don't think that we have found that individual yet. Yes, in Russell and Hayden, we have two good holding midfielders who can protect the back four, but we definitely need a creative player. And it will be interesting to see if Damarai Gray is using that position in the game. And, we have people like Cephas who can play wide. He'll probably play him further up the pitch with people like it's good that Shamar Nicholson is back into the team. Shamar, the fifth leading goal scorer for Jamaica all time with 19 goals. He has been playing for club Tijuana in Mexico, so it's good to see him back. But if Mikel Antonio is as fit as he is, then he should be playing the point man, and you probably use both him and Warner Brown and Nicholson up front. And there's also the option of using Cephas with his extreme pace that can really scare the daylights out of fullback. So you have a good attacking profile, but that creative number 10 is still what is needed in the team, and he may opt to use the Marbury in that position.
Mm. Are you surprised that Ravel Morrison has not been included, especially since, I mean, he's been talking of Ravel for a while, and there was the issue about him not playing. Then he found a club in the Middle East, and then he got into the squad. But we haven't seen him being utilized because I don't know. You talk to me. I mean, you are the coach. I am the observer. Talk to me about whether or not Ravel Morrison would be a good fit for that position that you're talking about, maybe in the number 10 position.
He'd definitely be a good fit, but I think the coach has some concerns that he's not playing top quality football in the Middle East. He's playing in the Middle East in the third division, and he really wants him to play top class football. And he has been saying to him that, look, Ravel, if you really want to be considered for the program, you have to be playing consistent top quality football. Even if it's in the English Championship, to play really competitive football on a week out, week in basis. And I think that is the reason why we are not seeing Ravel. Nobody doubts his talent and quality is very good, but you have to be constantly playing top level football to come out and really play some good football that Jamaica deserves. He's a quality player, nobody can deny it, but I believe that he has to find a club that he can consistently play week in, week out, that is playing competitive football week in, week out.
Mm-hmm. In the Gold Cup, the Jamaican team it didn't look like a team that we're used to seeing. It looked disjointed. It didn't look like it knew what it was doing. Of course, we bowed out to that competition, in a very embarrassing fashion, losing to Panama, and very, very disturbingly losing to Panama. Given coming out, being that those were the last matches that we played, what do you expect of this team going into these crucial matches? I know Bermuda a lot of people probably look at Bermuda and say, yeah, it's Bermuda, but Bermuda is not a very bad team. They're potentially dangerous. And as you know, these are the teams that you can, become a banana skin for you in terms of when you're trying to accomplish something significant. What do you make of how this team could end up playing? Do they need that change of system? Do they need a different setup in terms of the formation, 4-4-3-3, maybe a 4-2-3-1? What do you think is probably the best option for the team, given the players that are available?
I believe the best option is a 4-3-3. It gives us enough defensive coverage, but at the same time gives us enough attacking player. I think we should use what is our advantage, which is our athleticism and our speed on the flanks. People like Cephas, people like Dixon, who are very speedy. And, we have the option of playing a point center forward. But like I said, that crucial number 10 role, I would give it to Damar Gray to play in that position where he can get the ball, use the spaces and half spaces and create passes up front to the forwards and wingers. But defensively, I believe Hayden and Russell have looked very good in the games that they have played recently. And if we can have those two holding midfielders rotate, we should have enough protection. Interested Ian Frey, who plays for the Inter Miami, came down here and played against Cavalier, plays with Messi. He has also been included. He has been included as a midfielder in this selection, though he plays right back when he plays for Inter Miami. So it will be interesting to see if he'll be utilized in the midfield role.
Of course, we saw Kevin Lambert making a return, of course, Joshua Anglin as well. Do you think those two see themselves as starting, or are they coming off the bench? How do they see those two? Because I remember Lambert played a few years ago, and he didn't look bad in the midfield. Actually, I think he was quite useful in that position. Do you see him playing a role in these, especially these two matches? First of all, against Bermuda and then against Trinidad and Tobago.
Definitely could play a role. I believe that what the coach has gone for is a bit of depth. You have 2 games within about 3 or 4 days. So you may have to rotate your squad and you have to have people fit and fresh. So I believe that the entire 26 is going to be utilized in some way and some shape or form. So I
Mhm.
believe bringing in people like Lambert and Frey is something good because if people pick up injuries or are unavailable for the next game, we have to have people we can rely on. And like I said, it's two close games within a very short period of time. You need to have rest and recovery and rehabilitation if people are injured. So it's good to have a deep squad. The first game against Bermuda, it's going to be a difficult game. Bermuda have invited a lot of players who play in the English league, and
Yeah.
it's going to be a tough game. And like I said, away from home, and then we come back on the 9th to play Trinidad in the office. That's going to be a difficult game. You know how it is with Trinidad and Jamaica.
Yep.
We have won 27 games and they have won 26. So it's always been a very close tie. So it's going to be very competitive. So I think McLaren has really looked for depth and coverage so that if people aren't able to go or not fresh enough to go in the short turnaround, he still has that depth to go there and get the job done.
Mm. Let's talk about Mason Greenwood because Coach McLaren said today that Mason Greenwood informed him that he's not ready yet to take up the responsibility of playing for the Reggae Boys. This is the last leg for the World Cup qualifiers now. It's not like your two phases are weird. This is the last. This is the last step. This is the last phase. They've gone through the process of getting him passport, of ensuring that he's fully set up to represent Jamaica. Yet he's still not ready to put his foot in the water and say, okay, here I am. Is Mason Greenwood, what is it? Is he still waiting for an England call or Jamaica's his last resort? What do you think?
Well, if he's waiting for an England, it will be a very, very long time because I believe the English FA have decided that they're not going in the direction of Mason Greenwood. So I don't know if he's trying to wait to see if he's able to sway the minds of the English FA and coach Tuchel. But the fact of the matter is that he has gotten his passport, he has gotten his allegiance switch. Why is he not making himself available? Is he trying to concentrate on his current club career with Marseille? I'm not sure, but definitely it's a kick in the face. I mean, we have been waiting for about a year and a half for Mason Greenwood to actually come and represent Jamaica. And as the coach says, he has to deal with the players who made themselves available. And right now, as
Mm-hmm.
far as I'm concerned, Greenwood isn't interested to play for Jamaica at this point in time.
Should we very diplomatically thank him for showing some interest and move on from Mason Greenwood? Because, as you said, we've been waiting, Jamaica's been waiting for him for a long time. And they've gone through the process of getting passports and his citizenship sorted out. And still, he's holding on. It's almost like you have a girlfriend who is, yeah, she kind of in a bad state. I have a new girlfriend who willingly open, ready, open arms, willing to accept you, and you're still not quite sure whether you want to leave the last girlfriend. To me, it's as I mentioned, it's a slap in the face, and I think it's quite embarrassing that for a country chasing a player of his quality and him knowing the potential impact that he could have on a Jamaican team to qualify for the World Cup and still being reluctant to play. It's almost like he doesn't really want to play, but he's probably waiting having Jamaica as a last resort. Should it be a time where maybe the president Ricky calls him on the phone and says, "Listen, we appreciate the initial interest you were showing, but you're not being available for us when we need you," and thank him for the initial interest, but certainly looking in other directions, maybe somebody locally. We already have Warner Brown in the squad and other local players, and thank him for the service, and move on because to me, as an observer, this is it's almost insulting the behavior of Mason Greenwood in terms of his approach to representing Jamaica.
The problem is right now, you don't want to kick over the proverbial milk bucket because we know the type of quality that Mason Greenwood has. And in the end, if he doesn't play these 2 rounds, which he's not going to play, then there's also the possibility that we have 4 more games that he could play. So I believe that the coach is still banking that he may make himself available for the other 2 rounds of games. But if by the second round he's not available, I think we should move on from him. I mean, we've been waiting years upon years. He's a quality player. I'm not denying that. But you must at least show some amount of commitment that you want to be a part of this Jamaican team that will qualify for the next World Cup in the United States and Canada and Mexico. And I believe that he needs to show some amount of commitment. Now, if when the next window is open and we invite him and he doesn't come, I think we should move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing. You know, as I said, this is the critical stage here. We've gotten to the point where we top the group and we are in the World Cup. You would think that this is that time when he would say, okay, let me step in now and help Jamaica to get over this last hurdle. And to me, the fact that he's still on the fence, I don't know. I'm kind of different, so I probably have moved on already. But I'll just say you're right, Mr. And I agree with you. If he's not available for the second window, then we probably should move on. Because the key thing for me is this: there's always been a perception among the Jamaican fan base that not many of the overseas players or English-based players specifically are committed enough to the national program. I don't know how true that is. What I do know is that back in '98, we saw Fitzroy Simpson, Paul Hall, Dion Burton. Those guys, you saw them part of the national tapestry. This situation with Mason Greenwood though kind of then rehashes or brings back to the surface the idea that Jamaica is like sloppy seconds for a lot of these players. Is that what your perception is, or is that maybe an oversight from my part in terms of how things are perceived?
I mean, when you can look at it from a different light. I mean, when you look at people like Bobby Reid. Bobby Reid has shown some commitment over the
Mm-hmm.
years. Lamar Gray, since he has come in, he has shown a lot of commitment. Even our own Leon Bailey, he wasn't around the squad for a while, but he has shown commitment and he wants to play. But I think the Mason Greenwood situation is an anomaly, and we just need to address it within the next window. If he doesn't make himself available, then we move on. Because in the back of his head, I think he's still trying to play that hopefully one day England will, have a change of heart and decide to call him. And he really wants to play for England. But let us see. And like I said, if I was the administration, I'd give him one last opportunity. We don't want things like a situation where you have a Marcus Gale that comes in after we have already qualified and
Mm-hmm.
decide that yes, we're going to throw our eggs into the basket now to see if we can help Jamaica during the World Cup. We want you to be there from the start, be there to help us to qualify in those critical games. And let's be fair, it's 6 games that we need to get maximum points
Well,
out of,
points.
especially when we play at home. You can't afford to make any mistakes over those 6 games.
Mm-hmm. And of course, finally, as you mentioned at the top, Michael Antonio has been training with the West Ham under 20 squad. Do you think that that is enough for him to be an effective player? There are a couple of things that you have to weigh into consideration here on that. He's just coming off a very bad accident where he had, almost miraculous recovery from a broken leg and other injuries that he suffered. He hasn't played much. I think he played in one match. I think he played in one of the Gold Cup matches before this window opened. But how impactful do you think he can be in the current situation where he's training with the under 21 squad? Not much game time, but then coming into a crucial period here for Jamaica.
Well, my investigation has shown that he has played about 3 under 21 games for West Ham. He recently played a game over the last weekend against Manchester City where they lost 3-0. And he played in that game for the majority of the game. He was substituted. So he has been having some playing time. But a player of that caliber and experience, I believe that McLaren will use him in spurts. He may start him or he may bring him off the bench. But to have a player of Mikel Antonio's experience is always good, and it can assist us.
Mhm. Final question for you, Andrew. Looking at the Jamaica squad, how confident are you that this is a clear enough pathway to a second qualification for the World Cup for Jamaica?
Confident enough, I think we have the players. But unlike a lot of people, I don't think it's a cakewalk. We're going to have to play. We have to go out there and fight. Curacao is going to be a tough team. Bermuda is going to be a tough team. Trinidad is going to be a tough team. What Jamaica has to do is to ensure whenever they play at home at the office, they get maximum 3 points. So those 9 points have to be counted even before we play. We have to go there and get them. And whenever we go on the road, we try and pick up a point or try to steal all three when we play away. But it's going to be very important that we start on a good note. And the Bermuda game away is very critical that we get 3 points out of that game. If that's one to steal on the road, I believe that is the game.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Andrew. Of course, very insightful information as well. Of course, remember, guys, to subscribe to the channel, like and share the content. Of course, leave your comments. We're looking forward to them all the time, and we learn from them just as much as well. So until next time, this is Lately. We saying good night, goodbye, and hopefully we will see a successful Jamaica team in these first two matches against Bermuda and Trinidad on September 5 and September 9. September 9, turn out at the National Stadium in all your colors. Support the Reggae Boyz. Of course, we're hoping to get to the World Cup for a second time, the first time since 1998. Until then, bye-bye.